Marvel's Spider-Man 2 finally arrives this week, and ahead of its October 20th release, the first reviews of the Insomniac-developed game are making their way online. And it's looking good for amazing Spider fans out there. So, we've got one question for you.
You want to join us?
In their upcoming new web-slinging adventure, Peter Parker and Miles Morales have to contend with the likes of the Lizard, Sandman, and Kraven the Hunter, all while dealing with Peter's slide to the dark side and the mysterious Venom symbiote. This game promises to provide answers to mysteries that were first set up in 2018's Marvel's Spider-Man. So there's a lot of hype for this particular installment, especially since the first two games are so beloved by fans and critics alike.
It's pretty weird, right? Not that weird.
Thankfully for fans who have waited years for this moment, critics have found few flaws in the superhero epic. It sounds like this new game not only lives up to the hype, but blows the first two chapters out of the water in terms of scale. Though nobody is getting into major story spoilers just yet, reviews thus far have commended the game's writing for the ways in which it builds upon what came before. The characters feel like they've evolved in major ways, with Peter's personal relationships being a large focal point of the story yet again. His best friend has come back into his life with secrets to spare. His relationship with MJ is tested like never before, and his partnership with Miles is strained, as a younger hero longs to prove himself as a solo act. Add in a returning X and tons of new villains, and you've got a recipe for a story that hits every note of a proper Spider-Man tale. That might sound like way too much to juggle at once, but Gadget 360's review notes, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 does justice to its every idea with astonishing style and incredible substance. According to IGN's Simon Cardy, it's the best written story in the series yet, if still a bit cheesy at times, with performances worthy of the script.
True, but that's part of my charm, isn't it?
Some critics have found that Miles' storyline unfortunately gets put on the back burner for long stretches of this game's narrative. But it seems the final act of the game really gives the younger Spider-Man a chance to shine. However, a number of reviews have also cautioned players that Marvel's Spider-Man 2 definitely functions as a middle chapter. Much like with this year's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, fans may feel like they've just witnessed the series' Empire Strikes Back when the credits roll.
End of an era. I feel like I should celebrate. Maybe take a vacation.
The series' tried-and-true gameplay formula has received a pretty significant overhaul. Rather than try to fix something that's not broken, Insomniac has opted to make everything bigger and wilder than in previous chapters. There are fewer Arkham-style stealth sequences in this game, with Miles and a more aggressive black-suited Peter preferring the more direct approach in this round. Outside of story missions, players can swap back and forth between Miles and Peter at their leisure. Both characters offer very different challenges and side missions, and reviewers recommend swapping frequently to keep things feeling extra fresh. Overall, reviewers have applauded the game's sense of escalation and execution of dazzling set pieces. Game Informer's Matt Miller writes that the game features, quote, high-speed chases, sudden instantaneous scene changes, and titanic dynamic shifts to the game environment that are common and exhilarating. And that's just in the game's first 15 minutes.
This is crazy!
The open world of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 makes the sprawling maps of the previous games look like a city block. But critics are a bit divided on how successful the open-world missions really are. While the new game has a much greater variety of enemies to web up and smack around, some critics have found the side mission content to be a bit repetitive. Others feel like Insomniac might have tried too hard to avoid repetition, only to instead come across like the game is too stuffed with too many interesting ideas that it quickly abandons. VGC notes, quote, there are so many quirky little bespoke gameplay sequences that come up for a mission or two, and before you have the chance to get sick of them, they're gone. Meanwhile, Mary Jane's side missions also make a return from the first game, which critics are a little more split on. Some have appreciated the ways in which Insomniac has tailored these missions to a more survival horror vibe, while others have found that they break up the momentum in what would otherwise be a non-stop rollercoaster ride of action. Your mileage may vary when it comes to these missions. Overall, it sounds like Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is a real winner. For fans of the comics, it presents a daring remix of the storylines they know and love. For fans of the PS5-era games, it's a loving expansion of nearly everything that made the previous games spectacular.